When the mixed race descends to the Douluo Continent, with 0 awakening time, their power will surely reach their peak. Witness at this moment. This is the power of spirit, the wonder of power, the law of elements, and the edict of fate. Keywords. Douluo, Dragon Clan, Yanling. Keywords of the novel. Man in Douluo, 0 opening awakening time without pop-ups, Man in Douluo, 0 opening awakening time. TXT Complete Collection Download, Man in Douluo, 0 opening awakening time. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Martial Soul Awakening Douluo Continent, Tiendo Empire, Fasno Province, Nodding City Soul Branch Hall. Today is the day for the concentrated awakening of martial souls in Nodding City. Children living in cities and nearby villages usually come here with their parents to awaken their martial souls during this period, located in the main hall. Of course, due to the limited soul power of the deacon of the Martial Soul Hall, there is still a portion that needs to travel to remote villages. So here it's all on a first-come, first-served basis. In the first few days, there were many people, and some people had bad luck and it may take 2 to 3 days to turn. But none of this has dampened people's enthusiasm. Soul Master is the most noble profession in the world. Once they awaken their martial souls and test their soul power, even if it is only at 1 level, it means they can achieve class crossing. You should know that even a Soul Master can receive a monthly subsidy of 1 gold soul coin. This is enough to ensure that a family has no worries about food and clothing for a lifetime. Martial Soul Blue Silver Grass, without soul power, next one. Martial Soul Sickle, without soul power, next one. Martial Soul Blue Silver Grass, without soul power, next one. The flow of people is surging and continuous. Occasionally, the appearance of a child with innate soul power is enough to make those around him exclaim. It's not an exaggeration to say it's 1 in 100. The sunset has arrived, and the guards at the entrance of the Martial Soul Hall have also begun to loudly explain to the crowd behind, "Alright, there's no need to queue up for those behind. Tomorrow morning, the steward will also rest." Despite some regrets, the crowd began to disperse amidst sighs. Some people have already planned to arrive early tomorrow. It's almost over now. Except for the guards at the entrance, there is only 1 staff member left in the entire sub-hall, Su Yuntao. Su Yuntao wiped the sweat off his forehead, and the last child in front of him was soon able to rest. In front of him was a little boy dressed in black cloth, with black hair and black pupils. And the body shape is slightly slimmer than that of peers. Step forward and stand still. Su Yuntao clapped his hands and injected soul power into the 6 black awakening stones on the ground. Suddenly, a golden light was released from them, forming a golden light shield that enveloped the little boy. As the golden dots floated out of the stone and slowly integrated into the boy's body, he began to tremble all over, tightly closing his eyes and biting his teeth. In the next moment, with the right hand extended and the palm facing upwards, the brilliance suddenly erupted. For some reason, Su Yuntao suddenly felt a daze, and he didn't think much. He only felt that maybe it was because he was too tired today. He just didn't know that in that moment, the world was pressed the slow key. I didn't see the boy's fleeting golden pupils. At the moment when the glory had just erupted, all the powerful individuals above the Douluo star title, as well as dragon-like martial soul masters and soul beasts, seemed to hear an inexplicable whisper in their ears. Solemn and sacred. Although they didn't know what language this whisper was, both the dragon soul master and the soul beast understood its meaning at this moment. Praise my king's awakening, destruction is rebirth. It's actually a dragon. Su Yuntao widened his eyes. The martial soul on the boy's right palm is a black dragon with wings on its back, covered in pitch-black scales and ferocious bones. If you look closely, the black wings are covered with skeletons, making people shudder. I really found a big prize today, little brother. What's your name? Su Yuntao was so excited that he trembled and his tone was also very urgent. You should know that dragon martial souls have always been a powerful proof. Little brother. Looking at the boy who was staring at his martial soul motionless in front of him, Su Yuntao couldn't help but step forward and gently shake the boy's shoulder. Child, it's normal to accidentally lose focus. Yes, my name is Chenemo. Chenemo also snapped out of his contemplation, but still feeling a bit excited and couldn't stop taking deep breaths. Okay, Chenemo, come and try how much soul power you have, Su Yuntao said with a smile on his face, as if trying to seduce the child. Chenemo also tried his best to calm down and adjust his breathing. Retrieve the martial soul. He was also curious about how much innate soul power he could have in his heart. As the right hand was placed on the crystal ball, a faint blue light instantly lit up. Just the imagined dazzling light did not appear, and after several seconds, the crystal ball still only emitted a faint blue light without any change. How could it be? Is it broken? Su Yuntao opened his mouth wide and picked up the crystal ball in disbelief, fiddling up and down. He couldn't stop patting the crystal ball a few times, and immediately ran to the side to replace it with a new one for Chenemo to try again. Unfortunately, the result is the same as before. So weak light, with his experience, he completely knows what it represents. First level, your innate soul power is first level. It's okay, Su Yuntao said weakly. With the spirit that having something is better than not having it, I gave myself some encouragement. It was just that I hoped too much, but now it's good to have another soul master talent. I just don't know if it's fate's trick. Last month, I encountered a blue-silver grass with innate soul power, but now I have encountered a dragon-type martial soul with only one level. After adjusting his mindset, Su Yuntao continued to speak with a smile, Chenemo, you're already doing well. I was only 2 levels back then. With your martial soul, it shouldn't be a problem to strive to become a great soul master in the future. Congratulations to you. After speaking, he lightly patted Chenmo's shoulder twice. Thank you, Deacon. Chenmo nodded to express his gratitude to Su Yuntao. Alright, this is your martial soul certificate. Here you are. By the way, which village chief do you live in? Didn't your master come today? Su Yuntao filled out the proof and handed it to Chenemo immediately. He also prepared to leave and go home. Today, 2 children awakened their soul power, although neither was high, they were lucky. It's been 2 days since we last saw one. My parents are gone, I came alone. Chenemo thought of something and squeezed out 2 tears, his voice trembling as he spoke. This. Su Yuntao stopped, feeling somewhat pitiful towards Chenemo. Such a young child must have been living very hard. Now I finally have the chance to change my destiny. After thinking for a moment, he was ready to help the poor child in front of him. After all, he was the deacon of the martial soul hall and still had some small power. Unfortunately, Chenmo's innate soul power is a bit low, otherwise he could have been directly absorbed into the martial soul hall. Chenemo, since that's the case, I have a spot for you to study part-time. If you work hard, you should be able to become a soul master after 6 years of graduation, Su Yuntao said softly as he touched Chenmo's head. Thank you, sir. Chenmo could feel the kindness of Dao Su Yuntao. Sincerely bow and thank you. Alright, maybe you'll have a chance to join the martial soul hall in the future, but it's not certain. By the way, here it is for you. Prepare well and remember to report on time next month. After Su Yuntao finished speaking, he took out 2 silver soul coins from his arms and stuffed them into Chenmo's arms. This money is enough for Chenmo to live with a child for several months. Alright, let's go. After saying that, he bid farewell to Chenmo and left gracefully. Chenmo felt much more at ease as he touched the silver soul coin in his arms. Brother Tao is really a good person, Chenmo sighed and prepared to leave to find a place to settle down. The guard at the door looked at Chenmo's small figure, leaving only a hint of envy. Not only did they marvel at Chen Mo's luck, but next time we meet, they might all call Chen Mo's soul master. End of this chapter. Chapter 2 Spirit of Speech. Time 0. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Spirit of Speech. Time 0. Walking on the bustling streets, Chen Mo's mind was still blank. He seems to have traveled again. That's right, yes. In his first life, he was an orphan, ordinary, but with congenital diseases, he accidentally couldn't fall asleep. The second orphanage started again, but this time his body was very healthy, and even his IQ seemed to have improved significantly. Relying on being the top student in the city and earning admission bonuses, I entered a famous aristocratic school in the local area. On the first day of school, when the homeroom teacher called out for the first time, the more he listened, the more he felt uneasy. Chen Wenwen, Su Xiaoqiang, and Lu Mingfei sitting in the adjacent seat. Think about the name of this school, Shilin Middle School. Damn it, this is the Dragon Clan. The silly one next to him is the protagonist Lu Mingfei, and Chu Zihang is in the class upstairs. Am I wearing this to the Dragon Clan world? Chen Mo roared crazily in his heart. This world is too dangerous. Chen Mo spent the whole day crazily thinking, but fortunately, the main storyline started in 3 years, and he still had some time. Just dawdling through the days like this, a year has passed, and it's the day when the typhoon arrives and the rain pours heavily. Due to Chen Mo's special circumstances, he actually lives in the faculty dormitory building. But after school, I accidentally saw Lu Mingfei rushing into the heavy rain with his backpack, and Maybach parked at the school gate. Late at night, Chen Mo tossed and turned in bed, contemplating the future. He knew that 2012 was the day when the Black King woke up, and it would definitely be the end of the world. Even if Lu Mingfei and his team won the whole world in the end, it would definitely be a disaster. As is well known, the closer the relationship with Lu Mingfei is, the more dangerous it becomes, so Chen Mo has always maintained a gentleman's friendship with Lu Mingfei. It's really difficult to live these days, Chen Mo sighed and fell asleep in a daze. But he didn't expect that just this moment of waking up, he was wearing it again and still had the same appearance, feeling like a Grim Reaper elementary school student had changed back to his childhood. Nodding City, Martial Soul Hall. This is the fantasy floor of Douluo Continent. At first, he thought it was a dream, but after pinching himself hard, he realized that everything was true. Suddenly transitioning from modern society to the Western fantasy world has a significant deviation, and it has also transformed back into a child's body, making it difficult to even fill one's stomach now. Fortunately, upon seeing a group of people gathered here in the Martial Soul Hall to awaken the martial soul, I felt like an opportunity to quickly queue up and take a gamble on my luck. He just didn't expect his martial soul to be the Black Emperor. Just as his martial soul awakened, countless images flashed through his mind in an instant. The towering trees, the roar of thousands of dragons worshipping, the blood-stained snow-capped peaks, and the heart-piercing golden pupils at the end all shook Chen Mo deeply. Perhaps in my previous life, I was also a mixed race. After coming to this world, the bloodline source Nedhog will appear as my martial soul. Chen Mo felt that his guess should be correct. The extraordinary talents of the previous life may be due to the mixed race. Well, although this world is also dangerous, it's not that desperate, Chen Mo comforted himself, take it easy if you come. Quickly, he found a small inn and settled in. With the martial soul certificate given by the Martial Soul Hall, the boss did not see him as a child cheating him, and even gave him a discount. Late at night, the white jade hung high and everything was quiet. A gentle breeze blew into the room, and the flames of the oil lamp on the table flickered, making the room appear drowsy. Chen Mo sat cross-legged, feeling his body in martial soul. A mysterious feeling has been lingering in my heart for a long time since the awakening of my martial soul. Slow down, a little slower. Chen Mo adjusted his breathing, focused his attention, felt every beat of his heart, felt the gentle breeze brushing against his skin, and felt the sound of sleeping breathing around him. Finally, at a certain moment, blessings reach the soul, and an incredibly familiar feeling surges into my heart. Lean your left hand forward, open your palm forward, and spit out 5 words with a full of joy. Yanling, time 0. In the next moment, the invisible realm rapidly unfolded, and all sounds disappeared, bringing the world to a halt. He opened his eyes, his dazzling golden pupils staring down at the whole world. At this moment, the world in his eyes had lost all its colors, and the candle that should have flickered in the dark room seemed motionless. The dust in the air also hovered in the air, and no sound could be heard in his ears. Chen Mo's mouth slightly curled up, and in this gray world, only he slowly began to walk. Take 1 or 2 steps to fully experience this wonderful world. He is an authority, a power, a master, as if he is omnipotent. He can even feel the sorrow of the world, and his power has forced the world to distort it. Just as he was about to continue moving, the tearing sensation of his body made him stop. With a slight sigh, Chen Mo closed his eyes. The next moment, the candles in the room were blown out, and the world became noisy in an instant. The sound of the wind, breathing, and insects rang out again, and the world regained its color. Kodadama Chen Mo immediately thought of what this force was. The greatest reliance of mixed race is on speech and spirit. This is the power inherited from the noble Black Emperor, which directly gives commands to the elements and uses power to make the world run according to its own will. And time 0 is the pinnacle of enhancing oneself in the realm of speech, and it is with this speech that Hilbert Jean Anger became the most powerful dragon slayer in a century. In simple terms, time 0 can prolong the time in the field. In other words, it accelerates the user's thinking and physical speed, and even allows other mixed-race species to enter this acceleration state. What Anger can do is accelerate her own time by 50 times. Space is the foundation of existence, and time is the principle of existence. The power of time almost surpasses everything, and with time 0, Chen Mo is almost invincible. And this is the Douluo Continent, where the power of elements is more active. In this world, he may be able to use this language more easily. Not to mention the existence of soul power in this world. If one day one can become a title Douluo, coupled with the power of 0 time, perhaps even a god can be killed. After all, some gods cannot even solve hidden weapons. However, Chen Mo is still too weak now, and the time he used earlier may not even be a second from the outside world. It can only be said that the future is promising. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. First Encounter with Tang San. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. First Encounter with Tang San. Chen Mo lay comfortably in bed, feeling a sense of security instantly filled with strength. As for the first level of innate soul power, in his opinion, it is not a problem at all. Even without deliberate meditation, every minute and every second, the body is absorbing the energy between heaven and earth. Without a doubt, it is constantly becoming stronger. Perhaps due to the short time I have just arrived in this world, the soul power test is only at level 1. Just as Chen Mo fell asleep peacefully, the top powers in the mainland struggled to fall asleep. The strange phenomenon that happened today made them restless. What exactly happened? Why can only dragon soul masters and title Douluo hear that whispering? Why is it that just the sound makes them feel an impulse to worship? Especially the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex sect, which arrogantly inherits the true dragon martial soul, is one of the top 3 sects of the world's top beast martial soul. Faced with that whispering, it feels like facing the real dragon directly. How unbearable. Who could have done such a thing? Perhaps only the legendary gods have such abilities. More than a month has passed in a blink of an eye, and today is the day to register for Notting College. Over the past month, Chen Mo has been almost completely confined to his room. The taste of growing stronger every moment fascinates him, and the intricacies of language and spirit intoxicate him even more. Regardless of the world, holding power and strength is always the most correct choice. Ha, it's school time again. Chenemo briefly tidied up and walked towards Notting College. As one of the landmark buildings of Notting City, Notting Junior Soul Master Academy is located in the west direction of the city. Chenemo only realized now that he was still unsure of what time it was. Tang San Xiaowu doesn't know if she has already come to school. Chenemo has no idea about Tang San at all. You walk through your Yangguan Road, and I cross my single wooden bridge. You should know that although Tang San may become a god in the future, he is almost entirely a selfish person who uses every means possible. A person who grew up in a black and evil organization like the Tang clan that made a living by assassinating and poisoning, even his most basic human nature is incomplete. Can't we make him kneel down like the future 7 monsters without any brain, right? Think about it, as long as you lick it well, there are all kinds of immortal herbs and deities, it's really perfect. But what about reality? Tang San is not a kind-hearted man who believes in women. Who knew that one day you would have a way to kill him and provoke him? He always believes that he is right and innocent. If it weren't for the gods manipulating his fate behind his back, there would have been no place to bury him long ago. Extremely conceited, cunning, narrow-minded, and with a hidden knife in his smile, this person can be called pure and pure in Shrek. It's hard to imagine what the 7 monsters of Shrek really exist. Chenemo has no intention of joining Tang San. He just wants to learn basic knowledge honestly and leave here in 2 years when he has the ability to protect himself. Find a place to practice well. He also wants to know what exactly is the reason for his travels. Perhaps there are other worlds waiting for him. This is much more meaningful than following the little rascal around to die. Seeing that he could already see the gate of Notting College, Chenemo suddenly felt a slight heart skip. At this moment, the guards of Notting College not far from Chenemo were bullying the elderly and the young, which was the beginning of fate. It's Tang Hao. Chenemo instantly realized that he had just been watched by an extremely dangerous presence, and his intuition made him feel a hint of danger. But soon Chenemo relaxed and continued to keep moving forward. He is just a child now, Tang Hao probably just caught a glimpse of him by chance. At this point, the dispute ahead also reached its climax. Disappointed. I think you're from the beggar's village. Look at you 2 poor people, why don't you leave quickly? The gatekeeper showed an unfriendly expression and shouted to drive them away. At this moment, a thin and small figure stood in front of the gatekeeper and the old man, and suddenly knocked down the arrogant gatekeeper. Chenemo has also walked up to him. As the farce was about to continue, a sudden sound interrupted the gatekeeper's movements, indicating that the master had appeared. After giving a warning to the gatekeeper, the master took the martial soul certificate from old Jack's hand and looked at Tang San, revealing an imperceptible stiff smile. Then he looked at Chenemo at the back and said, "All right, sir, on behalf of the college, I apologize to you." After that, he asked Chenemo at the back, "Child, are you also here to register? Where is your proof?" Chenemo expressionlessly took out the proof from his arms and handed it to him. The master took it and glanced at it, then frowned and immediately returned the proof to Chenemo. "All right, both of you come with me," he said as he turned around and walked inside, while the gatekeeper behind him nodded and bowed, looking very imposing. After Tang San briefly bid farewell to old Jack, he quickly followed suit, and Chenemo followed closely behind. Just when Tang San noticed Chenemo, he was unexpectedly curious. Why is this person's temperament so peculiar? Tang San was momentarily curious about Chenmo's identity. Although Chenemo was dressed in cloth and was almost the same as him, his appearance was definitely first class in Tang San's memory. Especially the indescribable temperament on one's body, it is not something that ordinary people can possess. Mixed-race individuals are born with genes that are superior to those of ordinary people. Most of them are considered handsome and beautiful in the eyes of ordinary people, and their bloodline carries the aura of the dragon race, making them naturally unique in temperament. With curiosity, Tang San continued to move forward. Not long after, the master suddenly stopped and turned to the two of them, saying, "Chen Mo, you can walk straight down this road and find the Academic Affairs Office." "Tang San, wait a moment, I have something to say to you." The master's demeanor as an expert was quite intimidating, and Chen Mo knew what would happen next and was eager to leave quickly. "Yes," Chen Mo said, nodding slightly and running away. As for the master, of course, he must immediately prepare for fatherly love and filial piety. Chen Mo also has no favorable impression of Yu Shaojiang. Ignoring knowledge and skills is not enough. At the beginning, he was prepared to use Tang San as the experimental mouse for his theory, and it was also his greatest reliance on making a name for himself. And surprisingly, he thought he was a theoretical master for granted. Which person, when introducing themselves, always asks others to call themselves masters? Others are pretending to be pigs and eating tigers, but he is deceiving others and deceiving himself first. Is it difficult for you to think that you are a posthumous Douluo, and others should respect your posthumous title? With such thick skin, no wonder he has lived here for so many years for nothing. Even Zhu Beiji knows he has to work in Gao Laozhuang before he feels embarrassed to have enough to eat. Sure enough, just as Chen Mo finished the formalities and came out, the master couldn't hide his pride and led Tang San slowly over. Those who didn't know thought he was going to tie the knot. It was obvious that Tang San was very satisfied with his lifelong father's flattery as a teacher until he saw Chen Mo walk out and quickly restored his original zombie face. Tang San had a proud expression on his face, indicating that he was very satisfied with this new father, who was extremely lacking in love. No matter how useless he is, even when he rubs his theory against the floor in the end, he still feels that his teacher is the best in the world. Looking at these two people, Chen Mo couldn't help but think of a word that was perfectly fitting. Colluding in collusion. I don't know how Tang Hao felt when he witnessed his son recognize him as a brother. After regaining his senses, Chen Mo nodded at the two and prepared to leave. Anyway, these things had nothing to do with him. Just make a small transparent background board yourself. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. 7 Houses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 7 Houses. It's already autumn, and the warm yellow sun has taken off its crimson coat, appearing slightly listless. The sunshine slowly spread on the red tile roof, and warmth flowed on the white wall and green water. Just walking by the lake, a sudden cool breeze can cause you to shiver if you're not careful. In the Academic Affairs Office, Chen Mo nodded to the two of them and began to leisurely visit the campus. He knew that if he arrived at the dormitory now, a little brat would set rules and wait for Tang San to tidy up the people first. Just go in and give up on your own. There's no way, I'm really afraid of being taken to death by Tang San. What if he goes crazy? Living in the same room, how can we deal with day and night protection? So the best way is to play fake matches and show weakness from the beginning. Anyway, Tang San will soon be attracted to Xiao Wu. After procrastinating for a while, Chen Mo arrived at the entrance of the 7th dormitory. The whole room was spacious, with dozens of beds, somewhat dilapidated, probably outdated from other dormitories. At this point, Tang San had already fought against Wang Sheng, but the 11-year-old Wang Sheng was not the enemy of the 6-year-old Tang San's unity and was soon defeated. As Chen Mo appeared, the working-class students shifted their attention to him. Tang San was a bit strange. He remembered that Chen Mo should have completed the procedures earlier than him. Is this Chisha? I'm a bit lost. Chen Mo scratched his head, pretending to be a bit embarrassed. That's right, you're also a new working-class student. It's really strange that two have come this year. How about it? Do you want to come and have a sparring? This is our new and old Tang San. If you can win him, then you'll be our boss. Wang Sheng solemnly introduced his new boss, wanting to establish rules. Tang San also had the intention to test Chen Mo, although feeling a bit embarrassed, he spoke up and said, Chen Mo, right. How about giving it a try? He quickly adapted to his new role, and the surrounding children began to coax. Hey, boss, do you know him? Wang Sheng looked at Tang San and directly said Chen Mo's name, thinking it was someone he knew. No, we just bumped into each other at the school gate, Tang San shook his head and explained. Don't, I've seen his skills before. Can I admit defeat? His soul power must be very high, and I'm only at level 1, so I can't beat him. Chen Mo leaned back against the wall and directly admitted. Looking at Chen Mo sticking to the wall, Tang San had no intention of taking action anymore. After all, it was just a group of children, and Chen Mo's behavior made him a bit disdainful. At this moment, Wang Sheng stood up and continued speaking, Okay, Chen Mo, remember that Tang San will be the leader of our working class students in the future. We are all a group. Remember my name is Wang Sheng, do you hear me clearly? Yes, I understand. Chen Mo quickly replied. You can choose one of these empty beds yourself, Wang Sheng continued to greet. Chen Mo just walked in from the door and chose a bed by the window. The door of Chisha was knocked on again before it was tidied up. Is this Chisha? A cute little girl wearing pink clothes with a scorpion tail braid tied up to her knees stood at the door, shouting crisply. Are there any working class students again? The third one. Someone beside me exclaimed in surprise. Are we still mixed with men and women here? Tang San hesitated for a moment and turned his head to ask Wang Sheng. It was precisely the 100,000-year-old rabbit dance that came, and Chen Mo was curious about his first encounter with such an ancient species. You should know that even the Black Emperor Nigel Hogg may not be as old as the rabbit in front of him. Speaking of which, Tang Hao should be so happy outside now that his soul rings and bones have descended from the sky for 100,000 years, which is much lower than the probability of pie falling from the sky. Next, there is another self-introduction and hands-on experience. Two innate geniuses with full soul power appear simultaneously in this small work-student dormitory at Notting College. It is indeed the beginning of a world of great competition where heaven and pride coexist. Another introduction, Tang San was blinded by his beauty and knelt directly under Xiao Wu's pink dress, once again changing his position as the boss. Chen Mo could only sigh on the side that the human heart is not ancient, and development is probably not even beginning. This level of precocious puberty, TSK. As a descendant of the Blue-Silver Emperor, Tang San's natural and lifelike aura was like a trap with its own hormones, and his rigid little dance was directly attracted. The scent of a 100,000-year-old soul beast on Xiaowu's body made Tang San involuntarily feel a sense of closeness, not to mention Xiaowu's cute appearance, which made him have a different emotional attachment to Xiaowu. However, Xiaowu seemed to have keenly noticed Chen Mo's gaze and vaguely felt a sense of oppression. Just how could this be possible? She is a 100,000-year-old soul beast. Are you also a working class student? How about it? Do you want to give it a try? Xiaowu frowned subconsciously. Although Chen Mo looks much better than Tang San, Xiaowu instinctively felt a sense of rejection towards Chen Mo. That is the innate spiritual suppression of lower species by the Chen Mo dragon clan's bloodline. Xiaowu's body is just a soft bone rabbit, almost like a waste soul beast of blue-silver grass. In fact, Tang San also has the same feeling when facing Chen Mo, but the adult soul makes him not pay too much attention. As a model younger brother, Wang Sheng stood up and said with a smile, Xiaowu Jia, he is also a new working class student today, named Chen Mo. He has only one level of innate soul power, how could he possibly beat you? Wang Sheng pointed his right finger at Chen Mo and looked pleasing. First level, no wonder I dare not even speak. After speaking, Xiaowu relaxed her guard against Chen Mo. He was just an ordinary human little ghost, and Tang San was much more interesting. Chen Mo is speechless. She's already 100,000 years old. How did she pretend to be such a little kid? You are none other than the Oscar Queen. Just as a group of children were chattering, a 30-something-year-old teacher with light green hair walked in holding a blanket and called out Tang San's name. Everyone immediately focused their attention on Tang San. Are you Tang San? I am, Tang San answered by taking a step forward. My name is Mo Chen, you can call me Teacher Mo, Tang San. This is the bedding that the master has prepared for you. He handed the bedding to Tang San. Tang San instantly felt the love from the master and smiled. Xiao Wu suddenly thought of something and smiled as she looked at Tang San's bedding. Sure enough, a soul beast doesn't have such things as propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. It is estimated that she, along with the azure bull python and the titan ape, also exist together. After explaining the work of a part-time student, Mo Chen left the dormitory. Xiao Wu smiled and stared at Tang San's blanket. This, isn't it good? Tang San shyly refused for a moment, but immediately succumbed. The fragrant bedding really made him unable to refuse. Anyway, they are all children, they are all children. Tang San convinced himself in his heart that he was just helping others. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Wisdom of Masters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Wisdom of Masters. As the dust settled, the group prepared to head to the cafeteria for a meal, and Chenemo naturally followed along. A penny is hard to defeat a hero, and the daily portrayal of working-class students is not seeking to eat well but only to have enough to eat. Fortunately, the students here are the sole masters of the future, and eating more than ordinary people is the norm. The college's care for engineering students ensures that they have enough to eat. When everyone was queuing, the sudden appearance of the master caused a lot of discussion among the crowd. After learning that Tang Sanbai was a master, Wang Sheng and his companions showed awkward expressions. Even they knew that the master was a famous waste in the academy, still a great soul master in his 50s. Out of kindness, they wanted to remind Tang San, but they didn't expect Tang San, who was originally as kind as a little lamb, to reveal his true form in an instant. He is my teacher. If you don't want to spar with me again, please respect my teacher. After speaking, he turned around and left the cafeteria. In Tang San's heart, the master was already his father, and anyone who insulted the master was his enemy. If it weren't for Wang Xing's good attitude as a lackey just now and his first offense, he would probably have fallen to the ground in the cafeteria and howled. Chenimo watched this farce in silence. There were too many people in this college who looked down on the master. When the teachers in the academic affairs office used to treat the master as a joke, why didn't Tang San rush over and give a good lecture? When Chenimo and the others had all returned to the dormitory to rest, Tang San was still nowhere to be seen. Tomorrow is the opening ceremony of the school year, and everyone is ready to take a good rest. Apart from Xiaowu going out to stroll alone, the rest is about practicing and sleeping. Chenimo also continued to meditate for just over a month, and his soul power had reached level 4. However, the powerful power of his mixed race has been subtly improving Chenmo's physique. Regardless of speed, power, vision, or hearing, they far surpass adults. This is also the source of his confidence in surpassing Tang San. No matter how clever the skills are, no matter how much power and speed are, they are all papery in front of us. Chenemo was completely able to subdue Tang San in an instant with just physical strength. More importantly, his perception of the various elements that fill the world has become more sensitive. Once he uses time 0, he can already slow down 10 times in 2 seconds. Even if it's just a preliminary mastery of speech and spirit, it's much more powerful than any increased soul skill. In the battle of life and death, even if the opponent is just a little faster, it is enough to be fatal. How can they achieve 10 times the speed? Soul masters of the same level will only be instantly killed. I really don't know how much time 0 can achieve in this world. Chenemo was full of anticipation. On the other hand, Tang San and Master also began their first in-depth exchange. Teacher, do you mean that the stronger the innate soul power, the stronger the martial soul? Tang Sanfa asked. That's right, according to my theory, the size of innate soul power is directly proportional to the quality of martial soul. That's why I can confirm that your martial soul is not just as simple as blue-silver grass. Yu Xiaojiang replied, looking at Tang San with satisfaction. Tang San pondered and asked again, today, there is another working-class student named Xiao Wu. She is also naturally full of soul power, but her martial soul seems to be just an ordinary rabbit. Does she have twin martial souls? What, is it innate soul power again? The master was shocked. Generally speaking, those with innate soul power who can become soul masters are 1 in 100, and those with innate full soul power can be said to be 1 in 1,000,000. As long as there are no accidents, it can almost be said that they are reserved for account suspension. How come there are 2 consecutive occurrences in such a small place now, and it's unbelievable that the martial soul hall hasn't taken them away? No, there have only been 3 twin martial souls for thousands of years. The little dance you mentioned shouldn't be. Her martial soul is definitely not an ordinary rabbit, perhaps an unrecorded species, or a mutated martial soul, the master explained in a hurry. I see, no wonder Xiaowu's soft skills are so powerful. It turns out her martial soul is also extraordinary, Tang San couldn't help but nod in praise. As for the master, he was already thinking about when he would meet this little dancer by chance and whether he could also become an apprentice, so that perhaps another person could prove his theory. Although his innate full soul power is not comparable to that of twin martial souls, he is barely enough to be his disciple. If Tang San had one more person, he wouldn't be lonely, would he? And if this little dance is another twin martial soul, wouldn't he have made a lot of money? That's right, if Xiaowu had met the master first, he would definitely have tried what Tang San said, even if he guessed wrong and there would be no loss. A little girl really wouldn't make such a fuss everywhere. It's a big deal, he just needs to stay in seclusion for a few days. Anyway, no one will remember after a few days. Alright, mistress, you go back and prepare. Rest early and I will pick you up from your dormitory tomorrow morning. The master took a sip of water and reminded Tang San. Although I have some acquaintance with this little dance, it is strange to go so rashly. Coincidentally, tomorrow he will take Tang San to hunt for souls. When he brings Tang San back to hunt for the Centennial Soul Ring, he will prove his theory and strength. With Tang San as an example, wouldn't a mere little dance be easily captured? By the way, teacher, I still have a little question. Tang San just got up and was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something and stood on his heel. Yu Xiaojiang, still immersed in his wonderful fantasy, suppressed his smile and said, "Oh, what other questions do you have?" "That's right, do you remember teacher Chen Mo who came in with me at the school gate today?" "Of course, are there any questions?" Yu Xiaojiang nodded and answered. "The feeling he gave me is a bit indescribable. It feels like his temperament is not the same, and I don't know how to describe it," Tang Sanhui said, thinking about Chen Mo's sense of oppression. "It's simple, it's because of his martial soul. From my guess, his martial soul should be a lucky soul beast with a trace of dragon blood." Yu Xiaojiang just saw Chen Mo's martial soul proof, which stated that his martial soul was a black dragon with innate soul power of level 1. Since it can be recognized as a dragon by the people of the Martial Soul Hall, it must look quite similar. It's just a first-level innate soul power, probably just a black lizard or something, it can only be said that the dragon has some edge. You should know that the true dragon martial soul is the most top-notch beast martial soul, and only their blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex X blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex can be called a true dragon in the entire continent. As for the rest, they are just some sub-dragon species. But even the sub-dragon species are not comparable to ordinary beast martial souls. But this Chen Mo's innate soul power is only level 1, it is obvious that his martial soul's dragon bloodline must be extremely thin. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Dragon Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Dragon Martial Soul, Dragon. Upon hearing Long Tang San, he immediately became interested. You should know that in the previous life, dragons were legendary mythical beasts. How could there really be dragons in this world? That's right, although all the real dragons on the mainland have become extinct, there are still some soul beasts with dragon bloodlines. I estimate that Chenmo's martial soul should be a sub-dragon species, so his temperament may seem a bit special, Yu Xiaojiang slowly explained. So it's like this, Yanling. Tang San felt that the martial soul was really amazing. You don't have to worry about him either. He's just an ordinary person with innate soul power. In the future, you won't have any intersection at all. His upper limit will reach the Soul Lord. Alright, let's go back, mistress. The master could see that Tang San was very curious about his knowledge of martial souls, but there's something important tomorrow. When he comes back, he'll give him a good lecture. Yes, teacher. Tang San also knew that this conversation would probably be endless, delaying tomorrow's business. Suppressing his curiosity, he bowed and thanked before leaving the master's dormitory. I am increasingly admiring the master's erudition in my heart. The teacher is really knowledgeable, I must learn from him well, Tang San thought to himself and walked back to the dormitory. Tomorrow we will hunt for soul rings, and he needs to prepare well, especially for hidden weapons. Although the teacher is a great soul master, there shouldn't be any danger, it's still better to be careful. There was nothing to say overnight. The next day before dawn, Tang San quietly left the dormitory and went to meet the master, rushing to the soul-hunting forest. To be honest, Chenmo is a bit envious of Tang San. Getting the first soul ring means becoming a soul master, and you can register at the Martial Soul Hall to receive subsidies. If it weren't for being too young and weak in strength, there wouldn't be a suitable way to make a living. Although he can understand the language of this world, the problem is that the writing is completely different, so he has to choose to come to this junior college to study and get rid of the label of illiteracy. Although it is a junior soul master school, the first grade also starts with character recognition. Although soul masters do not require any literary literacy, they must at least have basic life skills. Having food, shelter, and education, this is simply Chenmo's perfect developmental point. Of course, it would be even better without the presence of Tang San and Xiao Wu. It's hard to avoid feeling a bit overwhelmed at the thought of a nearby Count Douluo who has been staring at him, even if he wants to practice his speaking skills. By the time he reached level 10 and had almost learned, Chenmo was ready to immediately find an opportunity to develop in a different place. Perhaps he would choose to join the Martial Soul Hall. After all, soul hunting is too dangerous. As long as he demonstrates the appropriate talent, it should not be a big problem to deal with the first few soul rings without exposing his speaking spirit. As for whether to follow the same path as the Martial Soul Hall until the dark, let's talk about it later. He has a great advantage as a person who knows first and knows first. At that time, I believe his strength is enough for him to maintain composure. The third student is not here, no one is practicing with me, it's so boring. The opening ceremony ended yesterday and the formal class started this morning. Xiao Wu is a soul beast. She has no need to learn anything in class, as long as she can write her own name. As for the common knowledge of the soul master, she is a soul beast that has been around for 100,000 years, and has never seen anything big. So on the first day of school, I spent the whole morning lying down. After cleaning up in the afternoon, the remaining time was for cultivation. Even Wang Xing didn't have time to rest. He is now at level 9 soul power in 6th grade. Seizing the opportunity to cultivate to level 10 and then finding a 10-year soul ring to become a soul master is the most important thing. Bored lying in bed, Xiao Wu can only daydream. This human world is much more boring than she imagined. By chance, Chenmo looked out the window and once again entered his line of sight. Isn't this guy also in 1st grade? It's just his first day, and he's working so hard. It's just a first-level soul power. Chen Imo is flipping through books similar to dictionaries, which he borrowed from the library. As a top student, learning a new language naturally won't be difficult, and in just 2 days, it should be almost there. After reliving the quiet campus life for a few days, the old rabbit that would die if it didn't do anything started causing trouble again. She represented the working class students and fired directly at the 3-bar athletes at Notting College. It's not that she deliberately provoked trouble, just waiting for Tang San to come back and act together. Isn't the chance of winning even greater? Can't we just hold back for a few days? A few people agreed to make a final decision on the back mountain of the school, and she wanted to become the little dancer of the entire Notting College. On the day of the duel, Tang San returned with the master who almost belched, the king. As for Chen Imo standing on the side as an atmosphere group, he is ready to shout 666. Anyway, Xiaowu is also a soul beast that has been around for 100,000 years. Dealing with Xiao Qinyu doesn't have much interest, let alone Tang San. It has to be said that a group of little brats are fighting in a small hill, led by a 6-year-old girl. If it were in a past life, it would have been a farce. Are you a working class student? Tang San's appearance surprised Xiao Qinyu. Although he was a blue-silver grass soul master, his century-old soul ring was enough to make them pay attention. At this point, there was no possibility of not taking action. It was supposed to be a battle of bullying the small, but under Tang San's blue-silver entanglement and snake venom threat, Xiao Qinyu surrendered directly. Chen Imo watched from the sidelines until the end, applauding and cheering. Xiao Qinyu had to find someone to take care of the work of the working class students, and he had much more free time. Day by day, 3 months have passed in the blink of an eye, and another month will be the holiday time. Chen Imo is still silently practicing, and the threshold of level 10 is about to reach. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Accidental Exposure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Accidental Exposure. A sudden rain curtain enveloped this plane, coming and going quickly, as if just to clean up the city. The accumulated water under the windowsill reflects a washed line of blue sky, cutting through the gray screen and extending to the end of the line of sight. Why did it suddenly rain so heavily? Fortunately, the rain has stopped now, otherwise my clothes will definitely get soaked. Xiao Wu muttered and complained about the weather. She accompanied Tang Sanyi to master's class today. Although the rain stopped, the way back was muddy, and her shoes would definitely get dirty. Alright, otherwise this little dance, I'll carry you back, Tang Sanchong said indulgently. Now he has regarded Xiaowu as a family member. Great, Xiao San, let's go, let's go. Xiaowu had no idea of gender differences and jumped directly onto Tang San's back, who was also so happy. The two of them frolicked and frolicked, returning all the way to the dormitory building. Just less than 20 meters in front of the two, it was Chen Mo who had bad luck just now and returned to the dormitory after practicing in the back mountain. Chen Mo heard their voices coming from behind. He turned around and waved his hand, not disturbing their date. He had just been drenched in water in the back mountain. Tang San nodded at Chen Mo in response and immediately returned to the dormitory. Xiao Wu didn't feel embarrassed to continue playing. I don't know what Tang San saw, but he suddenly frowned. Xiao San, what's wrong? Xiao Wu couldn't help but ask as she felt something was suddenly wrong with Tang San. No, I just suddenly thought that the blacksmith shop still has unfinished work. You can go upstairs by yourself later, Tang San explained with a smile as he turned his head. Oh, then remember to come back early. Of course, I'll bring you food when I come back. Since becoming a soul master and receiving subsidies, and working part-time at a blacksmith shop, his living standards have improved by an unknown amount. Okay, I want carrot cakes. No problem, the two of them said as they walked into the dormitory building. Tang San finally let go of Xiao Wu. Seeing Xiao Wu bouncing up the stairs, Tang San turned his head and looked at his feet. Chen Imo couldn't believe to death that he had been exposed by such a shower. At this time, coupled with the recent rain, there are not many students going out, and Chen Mo's footprints can be said to be clearly visible. Tang San followed the footprints left by Chen Imo and took a few steps, squatting down to discover the clues. As a disciple of the Tang sect in my past life, trace tracking and analysis were fundamental skills. By comparison, it can be concluded from the depth of Chen Mo's footprints that Chen Imo is heavier than him, and much heavier. Experience tells him that Chen Imo may be much heavier than him. But this is completely unreasonable. Although Chen Imo is slightly taller than him, since becoming a soul master, not only has he been more nutritious, but his experience of forging iron has also allowed him to accumulate a lot of essence. On the other hand, Chen Imo is not taller than him, and their physique looks like he should be stronger. Moreover, he had never seen Chen Imo exercise before. Moreover, he has understood that Chen Imo is an orphan, and it is only natural for him to be thin and small. But these footprints won't deceive people. For the same body type, a heavier one represents a higher body density, stronger strength, and naturally higher explosive power. Is it the reason for the beast martial soul? But Wang Sheng and Xiao Qinyu don't have this situation. Is this also the reason for his black dragon martial soul? Tang San instantly raised a hint of caution towards Chen Imo. Although Chen Imo doesn't have a deep connection with him, it's just a 6-year-old child who knows how to be so clumsy. Who knows if he's hiding any other secrets? To Chen Mo's surprise, some of his secrets were exposed after a hurried rainstorm. With the awakening of his martial soul, the Dragon Clan's bloodline is constantly enhancing his physique unconsciously. This has led to an increase in bone density and physical strength, although his body shape has not changed much, which has unconsciously increased his weight. He could feel that Tang San would glance at him whenever he had something to do recently. It was obvious that he had definitely exposed something that caused him to be wary. What exactly happened? Chen Imo couldn't figure it out and didn't have time to think about it. He had a premonition that his level 10 would definitely undergo incredible changes. Anyway, the school will be on vacation in less than a month, and when Tang San Xiaowu returns to Holy Soul Village, it will be when Chen Imo leaves. No matter what Tang San discovers, he will endure this last month when the sea is wide and fish leap, and birds fly high in the sky. Anyway, he has no grudges with Tang San, and I don't think anything will happen in the remaining time. A few days later at night, the moonlight was bright and the cold wind was gentle. It's getting darker faster, and the students are gradually changing into winter clothes. Now, most of them choose to chat about the future in the warm bed. Tang San Xiaowu is studying together in the master's dormitory. The master is teaching Tang San how to distinguish the age of soul beasts, which is definitely the most useful thing for ordinary soul masters. Of course, these are all common sense for Xiaowu. She came here purely to accompany Tang San. Since being rescued by Tang San, the master has no intention of taking Xiao Wu as his disciple. Perhaps it was Tang San's sincerity that made him realize something. He completely regarded Tang San as his own son and decided to make him his first and only disciple. Just as Tang San and Xiao Wu were preparing to return to the dormitory to rest, Xiao Wu was bouncing along in front of them. Looking at Tang San, who was a bit distracted, she suddenly felt a little unhappy and seemed to have thought of something. She asked, "Xiao San, why are you absent-minded these days? Is there something you're hiding from me?" Upon hearing Xiao Wu's complaint, Tang San instantly regained his senses and reached out to scratch the back of his head, saying, "No, it's just that I've been a bit tired these past few days." Lying, no matter how tired you are, you won't lose focus in the master's class. And you clearly felt guilty just now. Xiao Wu and Tang San were also very familiar with each other during this period of life, and Tang San just realized that he was just perfunctory with her. Helplessly, Tang San didn't want to continue making excuses to deceive her. From another perspective, it might be safer to let Xiao Wu know and keep a little distance from Chen Mo. So Tang San shared all his speculations about Chen Mo these past few days, hoping to wake up Xiao Wu. But as the demon king of the world, how could the little dance girl from Nodding Academy let go of such a fun thing? Are you saying that Chen Mo, the stuffy oil bottle, has been hiding all along? Xiao Wu frowned and laughed directly. Chen Mo. The guy who even failed to follow me as a follower, you actually think he's in danger? In Xiao Wu's eyes, Chen Mo is just a timid little kid who dares not say a word. The only highlight may be that he looks a bit good-looking, and he is also diligent in learning and practicing. Just the innate level of soul power, no matter how much one cultivates it, it's just useless. What threat does this pose? As for Tang San's mention of weight, Xiao Wu felt that Chen Mo had almost become a drowned rat that day, and it didn't matter if he had a heavier foot. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Wild Rabbit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Wild Rabbit. No, that footprint is definitely not normal. Anyway, you just need to pay attention to it. Tang San could only shake his head as he looked at Xiao Wu, who was laughing non-stop. He couldn't say this was his experience from his previous life, could he? Chen Mo's weight may exceed 30% of his, and it's normal for Xiao Wu to not understand him. Watching Tang San feel somewhat disappointed and lonely, Xiao Wu put away her laughter. She could feel Tang San's concern for her. And Tang San Su is smart, maybe Chen Mo is hiding something. If we push it backwards like this, she is a soul beast with a lifespan of 100,000 years, even if it's just a soft bone charm rabbit. However, the essence of the life of a soul beast with a lifespan of 100,000 years has already been sublimated. Even if she is now transformed into a human, is it possible for a human martial soul to make her feel a little suppressed? It seems a bit mysterious to think about Chen Mo in this way. Now, when I think about it, Chen Mo has never shown his martial soul, but according to the master, it seems like a big lizard. Alright, mistress, I believe you. Maybe Chen Mo really has some secrets. Xiao Wu pulled up a smile and comforted Tang San. Well, anyway, just keep a distance from him. Tang San laughed when he heard Xiao Wu believe him. As for Xiao Wu, she has already planned to find some time to play with Chen Mo regardless of whether you have hidden something. What waves can a 6-year-old human child still create in her Xiao Wu sister's palm? A few more days later, Chen Mo came to the small stream at the foot of the back mountain to practice as usual. The dense green vegetation brings fresh air, and the flowing stream brings vitality. The environment here is very peaceful, and there are also some people who practice meditation here on weekdays. However, the weather has cooled down a lot these days, and the tranquility here seems a bit eerie, so now only Chen Mo is practicing here alone. It's almost there, I feel like we should be able to break through in the next 2 days. Chen Mo sat cross-legged on the ground, feeling the fusion of his soul power, heaven and earth, and elements every time he meditated. Every breath of nature intoxicated him. Closing his eyes, the world appeared at his feet, his consciousness floating in mid-air like being lifted by the wind, and the blue sky and white clouds were within reach. Overlooking the vast and boundless land. The elements surround him, and all things in heaven and earth are in his palm. Accompanied by the sound of dragon chants in his ears, Chen Mo seemed to have completely transformed into a giant dragon. At this moment, Chen Mo's soul power was still circulating slowly, but inexplicable pulsations began. Bang, bang, bang. His heart began to supply blood strongly, and the pulsation of his soul power was like a tidal fluctuation, as the water was about to channel. Hiss, it's so cold. Are you sure Chen Mo is here? Xiao Wu shuddered and kicked Wang Sheng, who was leading the way ahead. Sure, Chen Mo, he usually practices here. I brought him here, but the weather is too cold now, otherwise there would be quite a few people here. Wang Xing quickly explained, rubbing his kicked buttocks. By the way, Xiaowu, what are you suddenly looking for him for? Wang Xingshan asked with a hint. Of course it's my business to find him, why do you still want to take care of me? Xiaowu asked in a threatening tone. Seeing Xiaowu's state, Wang Xing couldn't help but silently mourn for Chenemo. It was obvious that this demon king was going to teach Chenemo a good lesson. I really don't know how he got in her way. Forget it, I'll take Xiaowu on my back to seek treatment from Teacher Li when he's finished venting his anger. Falling to the ground in such a cold day is enough to suffer, Wang Xing muttered to himself for a moment. As a group of working class students, such a thing should never have happened, but since Douluo Xiaowu became the leader of cutting a few months ago, the working class students have also risen with the tide, and no one dares to look down on them anymore. And all of this is attributed to Tang San and Xiaowu. So for Chen Mo's next encounter, Wang Xing can only be helpless. After walking more than 10 meters, Wang Xing could see Chen Mo's figure from a distance. Chen Mo was sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating and practicing without moving. Xiaowu, he's still practicing. Why don't we wait until he meets in the dormitory tonight? Wang Xing finally fought for it. If we wait to return to the dormitory, with so many people pleading, Xiaowu probably won't take it too seriously. As long as Chen Mo apologizes, it shouldn't be a big problem. I'm Xiaowu's sister, why should I wait for him? Xiaowu's red pupils glared at him, and there was no half-silence from the first meeting, clearly an arrogant young lady. She specifically waited for Tang San to go to the blacksmith's shop today before coming to find someone. If Tang San knew, he would definitely stop her. She only became interested after listening to Tang San's words and prepared to try Chen Mo, as for not being able to win. It's impossible. Wake him up quickly and let him come over to me. Xiaowu held her hands and hummed, giving orders to Wang Xing. Turning around and pursing his lips, Wang Xing had no choice but to approach Chen Mo, who was also a soul master. It was impolite to interrupt another soul master's meditation. Hey, wake up, Chen Mo, something's up. Generally speaking, the meditation of soul masters is mostly shallow cultivation, and they can also feel the movement and stillness around them without any resistance. But Chen Moming, who is breaking through, is clearly in deep meditation. If interrupted, not only will his efforts fail, but it may also cause mental damage. Wang Xing also noticed Chen Mo's condition and immediately chose to leave lightly. In this situation, besides being confused, the one who still bothers is preparing to form a grudge. Forget it, Xiaowu. It seems that Chen Mo is about to break through, so don't wake him up now. Wang Xing returned and told Xiaowu about the situation. So coincidentally, shouldn't he be afraid? I think he heard what you said from a distance and was pretending. Xiaowu didn't believe this evil. Chen Mo, stop pretending and wake up. I have something to ask you. Xiaowu approached and almost got on foot if it weren't for Wang Xing blocking her. Alright, Xiaowu, let's wait for him to wake up before we talk about any major matters, Wang Xing continued to advise. Every breakthrough for low-level soul masters like them was very difficult. He couldn't bear to compare himself to others. Watching the top horse in front of me so uncooperative with Xiaowu today was even more infuriating. Let's go. Wang Xing thought Xiaowu had listened to the advice and was ready to leave first, finally letting out a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Chen Mo's breakthrough has also reached its final stage, his pulsating soul power is about to break through the boundaries, and Chen Mo's consciousness is about to soar to the sky. Humph, it's just a coward. I see you're not awake yet. Just as Wang Xing was walking a few steps, Xiaowu suddenly swung his fist at Chen Mo. She controlled the force, and the punches on the top of her head caused Chen Mo to bleed his nose. Judging solely from the soul power fluctuations that Chen Mo is about to break through, Chen Mo has definitely hidden his strength. Feeling constantly deceived, she made up her mind to give Chen Mo a good look. Anyway, no matter how much you break through, you can't be stronger than her. As the price of constantly deceiving her, be prepared to be cleaned up by her. As for the small matter of Chen Mo getting injured, it's nothing at all. Although the academy prohibits excessive sparring, there is no soul master who can fight without getting injured. Chen Mo, an orphan with no background, doesn't need her to worry about any trouble coming to her door later. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. How dare you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. How dare you? Just as his fist approached, Chen Mo's left palm extended to block the blow and firmly grasped it. Ha, sure enough you're pretending, today Before Xiaowu finished speaking, her right fist, which was being pinched, suddenly felt a severe pain as if her bones were shattered. Bone spurs intertwined and collided, piercing into flesh and blood. On this cloudy day, the weather can be described as cold, but in front of Xiaowu, the golden pupils in her eyes were as hot as the sun, and her gaze could burn everything. However, the sun did not bring her any warmth, but instead made her feel like she had fallen into a 10,000-meter abyss, trembling all over and unable to breathe. Every cell sends a dangerous signal, but fear overwhelms all instincts. As Chen Mo stood up, what caught her eye was the face filled with uncontrollable anger, shock, malice, and murderous intent. Finally, she heard the calmest sentence she had ever heard in her life. How dare you? She exerted all her strength to make herself move, but how dare her body attempt any intrusion in front of these eyes? The next second, Chen Mo swung her hard to the ground and kicked her into the cold stream. Wang Xingyang fell to the ground, desperately wriggling backwards. Without feeling his feet, he crawled with his hands, desperately trying to stay away from Chen Mo and this monster. Taking a deep breath, Chen Mo extinguished his golden pupils and left without looking at the two. Fortunately, when he finally broke through the critical moment, his body instinctively felt the danger and blocked the punch. Otherwise, not only would the breakthrough fail, but he would probably have to lie down and recuperate for several months. Mental damage can be much more troublesome than physical harm. After all, it was his own fault. Since he wanted to break through wholeheartedly, how could he choose to be in such a completely insecure place? He himself was too lazy and lax. As for that 100,000-year-old rabbit, it's just a small beast. If it weren't for Tang Hao being nearby, it wouldn't have been so easy to pass with just a few strokes. It's time to leave now, and what happened today was an almost endless ending between him and Tang San. But now he is a weak person. If he teaches Xiaowu a lesson, it's nothing. But if it also harms Tang San, who knows if Tang Hao will come knocking on the door in the middle of the night. Until Chen Mo's figure completely disappeared, Wang Xing barely had the strength to fight. Everything just now was like a dream. After Xiaowu started punching, in just a few seconds, the arrogant schoolmaster Soul Master was instantly killed. Chen Mo's strength was so terrifying that under the pressure, his mind went blank. Are all current engineering students monsters? Wang Xing shook his head in an effort to wake himself up. Wait, seems to have forgotten something. Xiaowu. Wang Xing reacted and Xiaowu was kicked into the stream by Chen Moi. Turning around, he immediately started running and looked at Xiaowu lying face down in the stream, suddenly startled. Thinking to himself, shouldn't it be cold? Fortunately, when I flipped over my back, I found that I had just hit my head on a stone and fainted. I was still breathing, but I didn't care about Xiaowu being soaked all over and immediately rushed to the medical room with her. Along the way, I also met many students who were startled to see Xiaowu's face swollen, wet all over, and spitting blood at the mouth. A few of them helped to take her to the medical room together. Teacher Li, hurry up, someone is injured. Help someone. A group of students rushed into the medical room, and Wang Xing placed Xiaowu directly on the bed. The other students who couldn't rush in were also looking inside from the doorway windowsill. What's going on? There are so many people, everyone should go out if they have nothing to do. Teacher Li looked at the crowded crowd with a displeased expression on his face. Looking at Xiaowu lying in bed, I couldn't help but frown. She still knows Xiaowu, a prodigy with a sharp head. How could it be so badly injured? Did you fight with the Soul Master outside? Seeing Xiaowu soaked all over and trembling, Teacher Li immediately drove the group of boys who were watching the excitement out of the medical room. Then he cut open Xiaowu's clothes and began to use his soul power to check Xiaowu's condition. Outside the door, Wang Sheng and his companions were anxiously waiting, and a group of people imagined knowing from him that Xiaowu had been so injured. Wang Sheng, of course, kept his mouth shut and told them that it was simply adding chaos. Suddenly he remembered that he should have someone report to Tang San. So he immediately called a working class student to the blacksmith's shop to tell Tang San about Xiaowu's injury. I just didn't expect Tang San to arrive before the master arrived. Although Xiaowu did not formally become a disciple, she has always been with Tang San to receive his teachings. At this moment, Teacher Li also finished her treatment and walked out, sweating profusely. It was evident that she was exhausted. Teacher Li, how is Xiaowu doing? The master still had his stiff expression. Master, Xiaowu should be fine now, said Teacher Li, gasping for breath as he supported the chair and nodded. She has a comminuted fracture in her right hand, 3 broken ribs, and some concussions. The rest are all skin injuries. I have adjusted her bones and she should be able to recover for a few months. Upon hearing that Xiaowu was so badly injured, the master changed his expression and frowned as he turned to look at Wang Sheng, asking, Wang Sheng, what's going on here? Who hurt Xiaowu? Teacher Li is also quite curious. Who, such a talented and lovely little lady, is so ruthless and has such a crazy black hand? If it was intentional by an off-campus soul master, the college would definitely not easily let him go. At this moment, Tang San rushed all the way to the medical room, covered in the rust and sweat of a blacksmith's shop. Xiaowu, teacher, how is Xiaowu doing? Tang San squeezed in and saw the master quickly ask. Don't worry, mistress. Teacher Li has already taken care of it. Xiaowu is fine, the master comforted his disciple as he looked at him in such a hurry. Upon hearing that Xiaowu was fine, Tang San breathed a sigh of relief. Turning his head, he clenched his fist and looked fiercely at Wang Sheng, shouting, Wang Sheng, who hurt Xiaowu? At this moment, Tang San realized that Xiaowu had already been so important to him. Wang Sheng began to recount everything that happened in the afternoon word for word. Upon hearing that it was Chen Mo's hand, Tang San had already sentenced him to death in his heart. The third item of Tang Men treasure record. Determine that the opponent is an enemy. As long as they have a way to take death, do not show mercy, otherwise it will only add trouble to oneself. Where's the other person? I'm going to find him. After that, Tang San rushed out to find someone. With such a fierce expression, there is no doubt that he is ready to kill. I don't know either, Wang Sheng shook his head. Actually, he thinks Tang San is a bit too extreme. At first, it was all Xiaowu's fault, and it was only natural for Chen Mo to teach him a lesson. It was not a big problem at all. But he dare not say these words at all. All right, mistress, let the college handle malicious people with ulterior motives. I believe the college will handle them fairly. The master stopped Tang San and said sternly, as if Chen Mo had done something outrageous. In fact, he was afraid that Tang San would not be his opponent and instead get injured. Teacher, I want to avenge Xiaowu with my own hands. Tang San persisted. Teacher Li on the side could hear very clearly. It turned out that this little dance was all done by herself, and she immediately didn't have a good impression of her. This behavior that violated the taboo of a soul master deserved to be killed. Looking at Tang San's disciples next to him, he was speechless for a moment. I couldn't help but speak up and say, this little sister in law is clearly asking for it on her own. What are you talking about? Tang San glared angrily, now he was like a madman biting people. Seeing Tang San being so impolite, Teacher Li doesn't get used to him. In my heart, I thought to myself, indeed, I am a master disciple of that useless person, and I don't even understand any manners. Whether it's the master or Tang San, she hasn't even received a basic thank you after coming in for so long. It's unreasonable for Tang San to still offend her now. Alright, you take the people back. Ignoring these two pairs of mentors, her work has been completed and she is about to leave. The master also knew that Tang San had offended Teacher Li and didn't say much, but Teacher Li's contemptuous gaze still hurt him. He naturally knew that this matter was mainly Xiaowu's fault, and even if the dean knew, Chen Mo might not have been punished. But he is Tang San's teacher, so of course, this kind of thing is for his own benefit. Otherwise, wouldn't being Tang San's teacher make him feel cold-hearted? This is absolutely not possible. Alright, mistress, take Xiaowu to my place, said the master. Tang San naturally knew the importance, and now it's still Xiaowu's business that matters the most. Angry Tang Sanyi pulled open the curtain and was about to take Xiaowu away. Fortunately, Teacher Li is a responsible person. Remember to put on a robe for Xiaowu, otherwise Xiaowu will be exposed by others. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Hanging Throne and the Road to Deity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Hanging Throne and the Road to Deity. The gray sky continued to spread to where one could see, and as the sky grew darker and more oppressive, just like Chen Mo's current mood. After buying a bag of dry food, Chen Mo left Nodding City directly. He has no destination now, his primary goal is to get as far away as possible from here. Not only is it the potential threat of Tang Hao, but also that he now needs a sufficiently safe and hidden place. The breakthrough just now was actually only half completed. Now he has come to realize that it's no wonder he's only at level 10. Everyone else is natural, and it's just a matter of time. Why is he so convoluted? His focus has always been on rhetoric. But I have forgotten the most unique essence of this world. Martial soul. The only way for mixed-race people to become stronger is through the path of becoming gods. His ability to awaken and speak with zero time is enough to indicate that his bloodline is S.level. But he doesn't know any critical blood techniques. Even if he does, the path itself is broken, but the power of his martial soul allows him to see the future. Martial soul is the manifestation of bloodline and the extension of soul. The original bloodline of mixed race is both power and curse. While gaining power, the mixed race is also approaching demons. The S.level bloodline is only one step away from losing control, because it belongs to divine power. How could the human body of the despicable fire thief bear it? Power and power are never separated. The mixed race has stolen divine power, but there is not enough power to match it. So an out-of-control mixed race emerged, and the body evolved to bear the weight in order to match that share. In the end, they became slaves of power and were made death attendants. With the breakthrough of soul power, Chen Mo could feel the blood boiling in his body, but he did not feel that crazy feeling. So he confirmed that cultivating martial souls was his path to becoming a god, and advancing to the next level was to unleash blood. In this world, there is no one holding the power of the elements, and the throne hangs empty without anyone ascending to the throne. Perhaps in the future, he could become a person like the four great monarchs, and Chen Mo couldn't help but feel excited about this. 7 days later, Chen Mo walked along the main road for an unknown amount of time before turning into an unknown deep mountain forest. This kind of rarely visited mountain forest is not a good place, but for Chen Mo, it is the best treasure. He is currently at level 10, so logically he should find a suitable soul beast to absorb. But Chen Mo doesn't need it. When Chen Mo broke through that day, he felt that his martial soul didn't seem to need a soul ring. You should know that the rules of Douluo Continent were formulated by the divine realm after the Dragon God rebellion. Only by absorbing soul rings can soul masters continue to the next stage of cultivation. Chen Mo's martial soul is the black dragon Nigel Hog, who is the supreme and powerful existence, and Chenmo himself does not belong to this world. The rules of this world are completely impossible for him. He is a mixed race and has taken the path of becoming a deity that adapts to the soul power of this world. This is great news for him. He doesn't need to hunt soul rings, so he doesn't have to join any forces. He can gradually become stronger on his own. As for soul skills, fancy things. Any soul skill itself still relies on its own soul power release, and soul rings only teach you the technique of releasing soul power. This skill that falls from the sky and can be used without effort has naturally become their main means of attack. This has also led to the monotony of even the attack methods of those titled Douluo in this world. However, Haojin's sect has a bunch of self-created soul skills, so it is understandable that they can become the first sect in the world. However, soul skills are completely unnecessary for Chenmo. He pursues language, spirit, and body, as well as power and power. At the end of the battle, only one's own strength is the key to everything. Without much thought, Chen Moping regained his mood and looked forward to what kind of surprise the remaining breakthroughs would bring him. The bright sunshine shines on this mountain, and looking up through the gaps in the leaves, the stars are like the night sky. Chen Mo sat on the ground at the mountaintop and began to enter a state of cultivation. His mind once again felt the breath of nature, surrounded by elemental energy. He felt as if he had fallen into deep meditation and as if he had fallen asleep peacefully. He turned into a cocoon. In a world invisible to ordinary people, elements between heaven and earth converge, jump, and collide at unimaginable speeds. Gradually, the energy condensed more and more, becoming denser and rushing towards the mountaintop like the rushing yellow river. In the next moment, the intangible realm diffuses from the cocoon, as if to fill the entire world. All the rules lose their meaning at this moment. The elemental flow instantly erupted at a higher speed, and the cocoon shattered into light dots that dissipated invisibly. So the great existence in the cocoon opened its eyes, which were the supreme eyes. The surging elements flood into his body, he is the master, the destiny, and the end. All things in the world fear, and submit to him. Being able to become his power is the greatest glory in this world. Finally, he spread his wings and flew up, like a huge black cross, roaring in the sky. On the other side, Nodding College, Master's dormitory. Xiaowu is lying on the single bed in the Master's study, and Tang San has also been living here these days. He is taking care of Xiaowu. After all, the Master is an old man and inconvenient. How is it, teacher? Is there any news about that person? Tang San held Xiaowu's hand on the bed and lightly asked the Master who had come back to inquire about the news. The Master shook his head gently and turned his gaze to Xiaowu. Xiaowu had already woken up a few days ago. The origin of the 100,000-year soul beast is strong, and this kind of injury is not a big deal. It's just that Xiaowu was greatly frightened and had nightmares every day these days. Now that he has finally fallen asleep, Tang San dare not mention Chenmo's name for fear of waking Xiaowu up. Tang San and his team only knew about Chenmo that day when he left Nodding City, there was no further information about him. It's just that the Master can't figure it out, why can Chenmo be so powerful? Without a soul ring, relying solely on the suppression of martial souls, Xiaowu has no resistance at all. What kind of martial soul is it? Why is it just a congenital level? Various mysteries surround Chenmo. Moreover, the Master still had a glimmer of wild hope in his heart. Chenmo may have mastered this special cultivation method of dragon-like martial souls. If he could master it, he might even be able to rely on the title of a useless person and even return to the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex sect to honor his ancestors. So he actually wants to know Chenmo's whereabouts more than Tang San, but even if he does, what's wrong? He's too weak, even Xiaowu can't beat him, and even if he finds Chenmo, he can't do anything. Suddenly, Tang San felt a commotion coming from the bed, and it was Xiaowu who woke up. She stood up and leaned against the bedside. Xiao Wu, how do you feel? I'm sorry, I woke you up. Tang San looked at Xiao Wu gently, with a hint of guilt in his tone. Xiao Wu shook her head gently and said, No, mistress, you've been taking care of me these past few days. Thank you. No, it's all my fault. Tang San lowered his head. If it weren't for him telling Xiao Wu about Chen Mo's speculation, Xiao Wu wouldn't have gone to find Chen Mo that day, and now he wouldn't have been injured. Xiao Wu looked at Tang San's sad expression and felt a different kind of emotion in her heart. The relationship between the two people quickly heated up because of this matter. A few more days later, Xiao Wu was basically able to go down to the ground and her mental state had almost recovered. The master estimated that he should be fine and found Tang San to inquire about what Xiao Wu had experienced that day. Wang Sheng was just an observer, and no one involved was clear about it. Tang San originally wanted to refuse, feeling like he was exposing Xiao Wu's scar. Xiao Wu finally managed to fall asleep and get rid of the impact. What should he do if something happens again? Xiao San, everyone has to look forward. Xiao Wu will eventually face this matter, otherwise it will have an impact on his future cultivation, the master said earnestly. Tang San stood still and pondered for a while. Although he was very reluctant, what the teacher said was reasonable. If he really developed a mind demon, it would have a huge impact on his future cultivation. And he also wants to know from Xiao Wu what strength Chen Mo is hiding, so that if he encounters Chen Mo again one day, he can better avenge Xiao Wu. Okay teacher, I'll listen to you. However, if Xiao Wu can't do it, we can't force it, Tang San nodded. End of this chapter.